Hey YouTube land, Tech Hunters there, doing another action figure review. And now I haven't uploaded a video for a while. My apologies. I was kind of busy. I have relatives over at the moment, and on top of that, I was at Dublin Comic Con. So that was at the weekend. Normally I record videos at the weekend, and because I was busy last weekend at the time of this recording, I didn't get this video up, or I didn't get a chance to record this video until just now. So basically what we're having a look at today is the second figure of the first wave of the Dungeons and Dragons NECA figures, and this is Warduke. So I did a review for the other figure in this wave. If you turn the box around, you'll see him here, which is Grimsword, the Evil Knight. This is Warduke, the evil warrior, if I remember correctly. So he comes in this window box style packaging, similar to Grimsword. In fact, I was going to see if I could find Grimsword's box, but I do not have it to hand. But it is a very similar style packaging, with the exception of having the artwork of the character, of the Warduke character, instead of Grimsword. You have this opening box. The figure would normally be displayed inside here, but I obviously have them outside. Then you got photos of the figure in kind of war poses, so you have that. And then on the back of the box there's a brief write-up. So it's Warduke. Warduke fights as a remorseless, cold-hearted mercenary who works for coin. Evil swordsman serves Calic as a cohort and adventuring companion from time to time. He wields a flame-tongue longsword and wears the dread helm. He never removes his helmet to reveal his face to others, but the visage beneath is of that of a grim, hideously scarred gladiator. And so these figures that Neca are putting out, compared to the ones that Hasbro are doing, are based on the old LGN line. I do have a figure for the Warduke, but I'm not sure where it is at the moment. So unfortunately I can't really do a comparison. Needless to say that the comparison is completely different, because the original figures are done in a kind of a 4-inch scale. These are 7-inch. So if I bring my tape measure in, you'll be able to see to the tip of the top of his bat-winged helmet is just around 8 inches. To the just above his helmeted head itself, like the center of the helmet head, it is nearly 7.5. So he's quite tall for a 7-inch figure. In fact, Grimsword himself, if I grab him, is nearly as tall. I'm going to move the box out of the way. Hopefully Grimsword won't knock everything over. But you can see Grimsword is actually taller than this guy. Grimsword is a beast of a figure, which when I did a review you would see that. So he has a good few of accessories, one of which, or nearly all of which, he's able to hold or store on his person, and then we'll go through the loose stuff. So he has the flame part for his sword. This is for his long sword, or not long sword, for the, is it the long sword? The long sword is the, yeah, the long sword. He has a short sword, long sword, and dagger. He has an armored, extra armored left fist, which is a kind of more outward grasping fist. He has a your next pointing kind of finger, which is kind of cool. I don't even think Grimsword had one of those. This iconically for Warduke. He has a hand with a smaller grip. Now I believe the smaller grip is for the short sword, and the larger grip is for the long sword, which is the one that he has on. So he has a shield, and I'm going to see if I can remove this. The easiest way to get this off is, I might have to do it off screen, but popping the hand out, and then just kind of flexing the fingers around the grip of the shield. His shield is different to that of Grimsword's. Grimsword's one just slid straight up onto, he had two of these kind of grasps that held it onto his wrist, whereas Warduke's is actually held in hand. His shield is basically a reproduction of his iconic shield that he came with as a smaller figure. It's done in this really nice silver with kind of a darker wash over to bring out the highlights and shading of it. The eyes on the center of the skull are all done in a matte black, and then the only other kind of paint app is this strap, which it looks like it's kind of done from either lizard or possibly dragon hide, is kind of probably what they're going for. So there's a kind of a leather strap going across to hold it in place. He does have his other weapons. He does come with one real metal chain, which is already attached on him in the box, and it comes with this short sword. I believe this is the short sword. It looks tiny compared to him. It looks like a dagger compared to him, but he does have an actual dagger, which looks more like a curved scimitar dagger. So I believe this is the dagger. And then he comes with his long sword, which is housed quite nicely on his back. Now, I will say I have had paint rub, if you see at the top of the sword and on the sides, from just placing it in and out of that scabbard or the sheath for that sword. So it is worth noting just to be careful. Not so much on the smaller ones, but on this, and I've also had the paint rub for when you put on this. In fact, I mightn't do it on screen because it's very finicky, but the idea is you slide this all the way down and you get the flame effect. It should fit right to the hilt of the sword, but it is very hard to do so. And as I said, I've had paint rub on it, so I'm not going to do it on screen. But you can do it. There is a way of doing it. He holds the sword quite nicely in his hand. If I get it into his hand, in fact, I'm going to pop his hand off, put the sword in the hand, and then pop it back into his wrist. You need to kind of stretch out the thumb and grasp it just so he gets a better grip on it, but he can hold it. So he can hold his sword in his left hand, or sorry, his right hand, or you can put it into his left hand. The left hand is a little bit more finicky because of the armor fist on the glove. You'll have to kind of heat it up and stretch the fingers so it will pop around that. But you can have him dual wielding if you want. So if I just take his short sword out, so put in his offhand. Although technically I think his offhand is his shield hand, which is on the box, this one. But you can have him dual wielding his weapons, or you can have him holding the sword in one hand and doing that pointing hand. It is pretty nice. Now, it is of note, I did manage to snap off one of these wing bits on the very tip of his helmet. And the reason for that is when I was putting this guy together, when I got him out of the box, what happened is I was putting the sword in and my hand went down and I actually smacked off this. It stabbed because it's so pointy. I actually got stabbed by these things. They're incredibly sharp, all these little points on his helmet, so just be wary of that when you're messing around with him. I ended up getting stabbed into the finger with how sharp those are while I was putting this, for the first time when I was putting this short sword into, or the long sword into the sheath, because it is a very tight fit the first time around. So if I just pop it out of his hand and put it in, it kind of gets to a certain point and then kind of gets stuck. So you have to kind of push it down. And what I did was I pushed it, it went down faster than I was expecting it to go down, and I got stabbed by the top of his helmet. So just be wary of that. He can hold his other sword. As I said, I believe this is a dagger. It is slightly shorter than this. It could be the short sword and the other one could be the dagger. I'm not too sure which one is which, but they are fairly small secondary blades. But he is quite nicely able to hold both of them. Again, just swapping out the hands is pretty easy. It's not too bad on this figure. You can swap out the hand. Giving his pointy hand. So he's kind of looking in a not so happy mood. So he is incredibly detailed. He looks exactly how the original figure did. Paint job and all the paint on the original figure was a more matte blue, like a dull blue, but they went for metallic for his scale armor. It is a kind of weird asymmetric kind of design. He has like armor down one side of his body, and then the rest is all kind of, as I said, gladiatorial style. His helmet is nice. In fact, if I get a good close-up of his head, I'll have to do it sideways, you can just see the reds of his eyes in underneath. Even behind the main part of the helmet, it looks like there's a secondary armor plate, so you can't even see the face behind that, which is quite nice. There was one thing on the original figure, you could not see his face at all. One of the other interesting notes about this specific character from that D&D line, I think he was the only one of the LGN toy line to actually make it into the cartoon. I have a vague recollection, I could be wrong, but I do remember there being one episode where Warduke turns up in the old 80s cartoon as kind of like a mercenary, and he's only in it for like one episode. But I believe it is Warduke. It is one of the few times where the toy line crossed over with the original LGN toy line crossed over with the cartoon show. Even though it was of the same name, all the characters were all unique to the cartoon show. So he has pouch on the back here. His armor is sort of glued in place, so it does restrict some of his movement. His sheath is attached to this strapping that's going around his torso. I do find that it tends to fall a little low on his shoulder. I believe it should be higher up along here, as to not get in the way of his shoulder. His shoulder can move out that much, a little bit more hindered on this side because of the armor. Again, he can kind of do 360 with his left arm, but because the armor is in the way, it is going to restrict it. He has a bicep swivel, a single jointed elbow, but it does get better, a good just over 90-degree bend. He has the bicep on both sides. His head is on a ball joint. He has a very spiky shoulder pad again, but this is more rubbery compared to this. This is more solid, so it is less stabby, but it is still stabby. His leg is a fairly stabby point as well, so just something to be wary of. And speaking of his legs, he can do the splits that much, which is a bit better than how Grimsword could do his. He can kick forward. This loin cart is separated in such a way that it can gives you good range of movement, and it's flexible on the back that it gives you good range of movement as well. Get his sword back into the sheath. He has a single jointed knee. He does have thigh swivel, which is hidden up here behind all this, but it is there. He has single jointed knee with a rotation. He has a boot swivel. He has rocker ankles, and he has peg holes. If you have a stand that he should be able to sit on pretty well, but he is quite nicely done. In fact, actually, I'll just try a DC McFarlane DC stand. He will fit on one of those if you have one of them spare, which you probably would if you have a lot of the DC collectible stuff. All in all, he is a fantastically done figure. Even the paintwork on him, I don't have too much, or if any, I don't have any paint slop on this guy. I mean, the jewels on his weaponry, everything is just nicely done. Even the jewels on his helmet are really nicely done. Overall, he is a really cool figure, and I can't wait to pick up the other figures in the line, which will be Strongheart is the hero character that's in the next wave. There is the dwarf character, which I can never remember his name, and there is the orc. I think they call him an orc, even though he looks like a goblin. He's only like this size, which is kind of weird for an orc, but he's a orc thief. So there is that. So he will be coming out, and I think those three figures, either 3 or 2 figures, are coming out in the next wave. I'm not sure when that wave drops at the time, but there should be pre-orders either up now or going up soon for them, hopefully. But we just have him here next to his wave mate, which is Grimsword, who looks still towers over this guy, even though they're still pretty big figures. We'll bring in someone else here in the same scale, because everything will go crashing down around me. I have Ravenspawn from the McFarlane line, who is a similar scaled figure. So he should be in the 7-inch kind of scale. You can see he's nearly as tall as Grimsword here. In fact, actually, if I adjust my camera a little bit better. Bear with me a moment. Get a better idea of the heights. So if I just move him back, move Grimsword back, get him over here. Now, probably should bring in something of similar nature. So I will bring in, if I can get him out without dropping everything. There's a more fantasy style character, which is one of the twins from Legend of Vox Machina. So you can see the height of one of those. This is more kind of cartoonish style, so we wouldn't, maybe you could get away with it, maybe not. I mean, these guys look more like they rolled off a film set than he did. And then hopefully I can get this guy out without knocking everything over. Bring in another McFarlane figure of Raiden from the Mortal Kombat line. This is one of the, I think it's the 2-pack Raiden, because I never got the original, but you can see scale wise how they fit with other 7-inch scale style action figures. Both Warduke and Grimsword do tend to tower over these guys. They have a bit more bulk to them than most, but he looks fantastic overall. So there you go, guys. I hope you enjoyed this quick video review. Again, apologies for being fairly late with uploading a new video. I usually try to do a video within a week, but it's been a couple of days over that, so hopefully you're not too disparaged, and I hope you're having a great week. And as always, please feel free to like, comment and subscribe to my channel, and have a great day. Cheers, guys.